All right. We are live. All right. So welcome, welcome, welcome for another edition of Thursdays with Sin. And I appreciate you guys being here so much. It is so fun for me to just really think about what's helped me in my journey and to be a success in my business. And I love sharing that with other people that may be struggling, that I just remember when I first got started how hard it was. And so I really tried to impart some wisdom on you. And that's what Thursdays with Sin is all about. It's where I can share tips and ideas and hopefully motivate and inspire you to take some sort of action, to take just one step further towards achieving your own goal as an e-commerce entrepreneur. Okay. But a lot of times my messages aren't just for someone that's in e-commerce. It's really just business tips in general with a twist towards e-commerce, if that makes sense. So anyway, let's get going today. The title of today's training is called Hocus, Pocus, Focus. Now, here's something that was said to me a couple years ago, and that really was a punch in the stomach. Either put on your big girl pants and get on board, or get out. Okay? Can you imagine having that said to you in a very stern, strict way? Either put on your big girl pants and get on board, or get out. I mean, it was that direct. And honestly, it was like a punch in the stomach. It really, really was. And, for that message to be said to you when you're trying so hard to learn, it was like, wow, just it really took my breath away. And basically, I felt like it was a slap in the face by someone that I looked up to as a mentor. So when you think about that, and when I go back and just remember, I think I was just speechless. My mouth was just open, like, I can't believe he just said that. So, my first instinct, I was angry. I was shocked. I thought it was very rude that this person would basically, say that to me. And what the point of the message was, stop whining, do what it takes to make it happen, or go find something else to do as an entrepreneur. That you're not cut out for this. So again, how rude. It just took me a while to even process the statement. So keep in mind, of course, you don't know this person, but this person was a rock star in some entrepreneurial circles that I was in. And these groups and these circles were filled with other people. They're like the cool kids that wanted to be, successful entrepreneurs. They were all looking to be aspiring Amazon millionaires, right? And you felt privileged just to be even in the group with these people. That was the aura, that was the message that they sent. So at the time, I had been a total sponge up till that point. I had just researched and studied and watched endless YouTube videos trying to soak up every single word from all these gurus out there preaching, that they had the magic formula, that they knew the answer, and that, do this, do that. And, pretty soon your head is spinning because you've gotten so much information from so many different directions. You don't even know what to trust and what's real and what's really valuable at that point. So, up until that point, every other group, seemed to be a pretty supportive, upbeat atmosphere. And the trainers would do their best to motivate and encourage you and inspire you, buy their course, and spend your money with them. And that you would definitely achieve success in 30 days and yada, yada, yada. You know the drill. But this group was really different, and it was much more direct. It wasn't the sugar-coated type group. It was the, get down deep and dirty and do it, because you're not going to be successful any other way. So looking back, those group members were way more successful than the other sugar-coated side, let's say. So, I had been studying for months and months and months and really struggling, really just how to figure it all out and make it work. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. In fact, it was extremely difficult, and to the point of feeling impossible. Oh gosh, that's really hard to swallow when you have a dream that you're really working towards and you just can't figure it out, right? So what made this group different? And how were all these other cool kids having this much success, and I couldn't even get my business off the ground? I couldn't even get started, it seemed like. So It just didn't make sense to me at all. Knowing how hard I had worked, it just didn't make sense. So that's when the pity party started. What's wrong with me? Why can't I be as successful as these other people? What is it about what I'm doing that's so different? I'm supposedly following the same exact steps. Am I not smart enough? Do I not have what it takes to do this type of work? Maybe I'm not just cut out for this stuff, right? So then came all the tears. And oh my gosh, I've told this story many times about how often I would actually just sit on the floor and just cry. And I'm not ashamed to say that at all, because it's true. And it really just shows you how vulnerable I was and how upset I was, that, and that's where my mind was at that time. So I was experiencing total disappointment, and anguish, just true anguish, filled my heart and my soul. And it was all silently festering inside, because I didn't want my husband to know that I was not being successful, right? I had been talking for a while now and pitching to him, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world, and I'm going to be a millionaire. I probably didn't say millionaire, but I'm going to be very, very successful on Amazon. I can quit my job and we can live the life of luxury, because that's what I was being told by all these other gurus, right? And to have finally brought him on board to absorb the idea and be supportive of it, and then here I am, and I wasn't making it happen. So can you imagine just the disappointment? And the feeling of, I'm going to have to eat my words. And the last thing I wanted to do is to have to go back to him and say, hey, this didn't quite work out like I thought it was going to, because that would make me look like an idiot. And I certainly I just didn't want to have to do that. It was just embarrassing, and I felt ashamed of myself for either being duped or not being smart enough, and neither of those was I ready to admit, right? So I had worked so hard and tried to learn everything I possibly could up until that point, but it still just didn't make sense to me. Why wasn't it happening for me when it was happening for all these other people? So then it was like, all right, just take a deep breath and sit back and really let's just think about this thing and analyze it. So that's when my real anguish came, when I had to face the fact and realize that I just might be stuck in this 9-to-5 job for another 10 years. Oh my gosh, just saying that just makes me feel queasy, honestly, because I felt totally defeated. And that was just a reality that I was not willing to accept at all. That was not in my plans. That was not my dream. And I was not willing to give up on that dream. I didn't want to be in that 9-to-5 job anymore. I was miserable. And I was dying inside. I felt like I was just withering away and just sinking and melting into the ground. That I had no motivation, no excitement, no energy towards what I was doing, because it's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, right? So I felt like that my clock was ticking on the inside for a life of freedom, with no constraints, being on someone else's schedule, being told what to do all the time, right? So I found myself at that point at a crossroads, and it was time to do or die. I either had to give up on my dreams and walk away, or either buckle down and work even harder to somehow make this all happen and make it work out, right? Now, think about that for just a minute. Does that sound familiar? So let me repeat that. Either I had to give up my dream of being an e-commerce entrepreneur and walk away, or go back to that 9-to-5 as a miserable, defeated person, or buckle down and work even harder to somehow make it happen. Now let that sink in for just a minute. So I'm going to say it one more time, but I'm going to say it in a different way. So listen up. Either put on your big girl pants and get on board, or get out. Wow. Just wow. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. So I was now telling myself the exact same thing someone else had told me previously that I had been so offended by, right? But it's the very same thing. I'm saying the exact same thing that that person told me, just in a different way. Now, when I realized this, oh my gosh, this hit me like a ton of bricks. It was it was eye-opening. It actually took my breath to really realize it's the same exact same thing that they told me that I was too blind to see originally. So if you know me personally at all, then you know there is just one major thing about me. Don't tell me I can't do something, because I will prove to you that I will. And, I will show you that I can. That just gives me more fuel and more motivation and drive and ambition to make sure that I can prove you wrong. And that is really where every single thing changed in my life from that point forward. And I'm not just talking about business perspective, I mean personally, because from that point on, my mood was much more positive. I was inspired more than ever. I had found energy and just, oh gosh, a whole different way of feeling and thinking at that point. I was no longer angry at those harsh words that were said to me. At that point, I was thankful for them, because I realized exactly what it meant. Really, I was able to decipher it into my own words and apply it. And then I really took heart into what those words meant. It truly was a kick in the pants that I needed to really focus on the right things that would move the needle forward in my own business. I started thinking strategically, right? Without emotion attached to it. I was able to leave that emotional baggage at the door, and it wasn't even an issue anymore. It didn't even bother me anymore. So from that point on, I imagined myself as a CEO of a large corporation, and to think about, what would this CEO be doing for their business right now? They wouldn't be whining and complaining. They would be thinking strategically, thinking outside the box, and doing the right things that truly moves their business forward so they can grow and develop even more. So my entire mindset shifted, and it shifted in such a good way that I created an atmosphere where positivity fueled my zone of genius. Now think about zone of genius and what that means. That is just creating a space for yourself where you can allow your mind to be creative, to think outside the box, to put away all the noise that is distracting to you. That's when I started to thrive. And I was a whole new person at that point, right? So I began to really put forth at that point relentless focus. And that was structured on building my business, again, without all that emotional baggage attached to it and those feelings that were always holding me back previously that I didn't even realize. Now, what does that look like? So, how do you do that? So basically, it's some very simple tasks that I can tell you about, and that's what I want to share with you right now. So for me, it was no more being a couch potato and sitting on the sofa watching TV once I got home from work and after supper for the rest of the night. It was, unproductive time. So no more doing that. No more shopping on my lunch break or calling girlfriends and just chit-chatting and mindlessly just killing an hour every single day. Instead, I took training classes. And at night, I would actually do research and be on the computer all night instead of just watching mindless TV. No more relaxing on weekends for me. Now, I would work all day long. I would stay in my pajamas the entire weekend, and hopefully I showered and brushed my teeth. Some days I didn't, because I was so focused. It was relentless focus on working on the computer and researching and studying and learning and just trying to soak up every single thing that I could. And I'd cut out so much of that social time, and I let some really things that were important to me go, because I had to create the time somewhere. So, some things around the house and some duties, luckily I have a very supportive husband that helps me on stuff like that. And because he had bought into my idea of, I was going to make it, he was willing to be that supportive partner for me, which made a tremendous amount of difference for me. I'm so grateful for that, and still grateful for that to this day, because he still helps me. And, but I had to absorb every single second and grab those minutes everywhere possible that I could put into learning and learning how to grow my business. And results do not come magically. They don't. And any of these other gurus out there telling you, oh, in 30 days, you're going to be a millionaire. It's not true. And it's just not possible. Certainly, do some people have instant success? Yes, that is true. But those are different people. Those are the outliers. Those are ones that are not, they're not the typical results, right? So you cannot bank on that being happening to you. It's just not realistic. And I don't teach that. And I don't teach people that's the way to go. And that's not the people you should be following, because again, it's not realistic and it's just a pipe dream. So you have to put in work, you have to put in effort. And for me, it's all about relentless focus. You cannot just say hocus pocus and poof, you're a millionaire in your business. It's just not going to work that way. You have to assert that relentless focus into the right actions that are needed to grow your business and move the needle forward one step at a time. You're building a foundation, you're growing, you're growing it from the ground up. So it's layer upon layer upon layer. You can't build a house the same way. You have to have that solid foundation first and then build up. You don't just start with the roof and then build down. It just doesn't work that way. So hopefully that makes sense. But to put it into another perspective and give you another way to explain it, so maybe it hits home with you. Recently, one of my dear friends who's wonderful in the e-commerce or the entrepreneurial world, not e-commerce, but he is a great mentor and he's extremely successful. He's very, very smart. And he's very, very successful in the digital marketing space online. And just imparts tons of wisdom all the time. So I recently saw a post that he made on Facebook and it just really hit home with me. And he was talking about how athletes, how they have the ability to play under extreme conditions. So think about this for a minute. And when I think about that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I watch football sometimes with my husband. It'll be like, 2 degrees and they're in the short sleeve jersey and it's snowing and they're still running around playing like they're not even cold, So that's where my mind goes. But he had different examples. His examples were, think about when they're hurt. They really had just suffered an injury, but they get right back out on the field. And think about these extreme conditions of they just lost a loved one and they still go out and play the game that day, or some other tragic event in their life happened and they're still, as a professional athlete, they're still out there playing the game, whatever the game is. And, they dig deep, they find that resolve deep down in their soul and they pull it out and they're able to come out and still play the game and give 100% effort for the good of the game and all of their teammates and all, everyone watching. So they're able to do that. And it's not because it's magic. It's not hocus pocus. It is because they have that relentless focus and that resolve that allows them to do that. And they tune out the noise. And in this case, it could be their pain. It could be their sadness. They could be, just, oh gosh, had just suffered the loss of a parent the same day or the day before, and they still come out and play the game. So when you think about that, it just comes down to relentless focus. So regardless, if you're an athlete, if you're in any kind of business, if you're an e-commerce entrepreneur, you can still use and find that relentless focus for yourself, because that is what's going to make the difference between those that succeed and those that do not. All right. So now I want to hear from you. I want you to give me your thoughts on what are some ways that you're able to cut out the noise and dig down deep and find that relentless focus. What does that mean to you? I want to hear from you and you tell me what that looks like in your life. So we can all learn from each other's stories, right? Now, if you want to learn more about what I do as an e-commerce business manager, then I offer you the opportunity to check me out on Facebook. I have a Facebook group where we are share all kinds of great free training. It's called E-COM, C-O-M-M, Business Management Community. And so that's my free Facebook group. And you can also find me on my website, www.cynmeadows.com. That's cynmeadows.com. And we are right now building that up with some great training, and we're just adding to it all the time. So keep checking back often. So that's a wrap for today. I hope I've motivated and inspired you just a teeny bit to take one step towards your entrepreneurial journey. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.